Sometimes go ahead and.
Oh, no.
Ready to go. We are opening our meeting called to order of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, May 9th, 2024. We'd like to start with introductions. And I'd like us to just go around the table and introduce yourself. And if you're with the advisory board or have a role, or if you're here from the community, introduce yourself and the neighborhoods you live in. And I'll start. My name is Vicki Handy. I am co-chair of Parks and Rec Board, and I'm in the Willamette neighborhood. So let's go this way and we'll come around here. Thank you. I'm Diane Lavery, and I live in Cascade Summit. And lived here for almost 23 years. And a board member. Excuse me. Tara Wigan, Parks and Recreation staff.
Mary Baumgartner, City Council President and Parks and Rec Board liaison, and I live in the Willamette neighborhood.
Chris Owens, on the Parks and Rec Board. I live in Robinwood and we've been here 7 years.
I'm Todd Olson, Parks and Rec Board member, and I live in Barrington Heights.
I'm Megan Bigjohn. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director, and I am in Robinwood neighborhood as well.
I'm Roger Shepard, I guess. I'm a 30-year resident of the Bolton neighborhood.
Good to have you back. And former board member.
9 years.
For many years.
Member.
Went from or until what year?
That's a good question. Vicki was still, and John were still on the board back then. I think
Back then.
John Pickens did it.
Yeah, I was off for a while. I came back on.
I'm Angela Thomas, just a guest community member. I live in Willamette over on Summerlin. I'm just here as a community member, but my interests are the parks, of course. I would love to be a board member sometime. Animal, pets, gardening.
Wonderful. So glad you're here.
John Lindman, I'm co-chair and I live in Hidden Springs. I've been in town since 39 years.
39. Wow. 26.
Yeah, we built the house 39 years ago.
Jeez. Okay.
It's showing me that it's almost 40 years and falling apart.
Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the agenda? Can we pass tonight's agenda?
Move to approve.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
All right.
Agenda approved. And did you have a chance to take a look at the summary note?
Yeah, it looked good to me. I vote that we approve it.
Second, in favor?
All right.
Awesome. Glad to see that. And so we go to our first agenda item, and that is community comments. And I'd like to start with Angela.
Okay, that'll work, but mine should be quick. I don't know if I know you were here. I don't know if anybody remembers me from a couple years ago. I wanted to talk about the Willamette Park. Not the boat launch, but the old boat launch and off-leash dogs. Does anybody remember me from a couple years ago, except for Tara?
I do.
Okay, so I made a couple things. I only made 2 things. I struggled with my printer for like a long time, just so you can like remember my ask. Okay, so this is about, so I go down there every day. I kind of look over the geese and the ducks down there. I've known them for a long time. They're my little friends, and I clean up trash down there. I clean up a lot of fishing line. I work with Okra, which is the on-call like for the wildlife animal rescue. So several times I just grabbed like a goose that has fishing line that's almost cutting off its legs, cut it off, or you know, not the leg, but the fishing line. And, you know, yeah, cut it off. Or, you know, helps the little ducklings or whatever. So I'm down there every day. It's kind of what centers me as my little area down there. So a couple of years ago, I noticed that people would go down there and take their dog off the leash and it'd go running. And so I started noticing where the dog, now I'm an animal lover, love dogs, love seeing them go in the water on the leash to cool off and everything. But what I don't like seeing is when I just have some examples on the first page. where I've seen dogs attack other dogs. I've seen, adult ducks and baby ducks being killed. I've seen them like kind of run over older people, kids, go and eat people's food. It's just kind of crazy. And then last I've seen where, people have gotten into arguments down there
Mhm.
about dogs and stuff. So I was here a couple years ago asking for a sign to be, put up down there. When I, asked for that, I thought Ken or somebody would maybe like ask me more information. That didn't happen, so that's why I'm back. The sign did get put there. I have really horrible pictures, but
Really good.
Yeah, the show.
I was ready to throw my printer away and,
They're very good.
so
Yeah.
this is like the old boat launch. It's down at the Willamette Park. It's kind of across from the stage, but it's more
On the Tualatin.
on the Tualatin.
Yeah.
Swollen River.
And it says, I don't have my glasses on, but something about leashes required, doesn't, here's the police number, but it doesn't really say it's an ordinance. And then my first two pictures are where it's mostly covered up with the blackberry bushes. That is not where I wanted the sign. I'm grateful it's there, but when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's not where I wanted it. It is actually on the second page, there's another way down there, and when the trees are cleared up, that's where most people go down, and that's where I see people take their dogs off. Now, not every dog is horrible or anything like that, but I kind of put pictures where I would really like a sign and something that says like pets must be on a leash. I did put the ordinance number there if there can be a sign. Of course, I don't want signs all over the parks. Over where there's softball, I know people put their dogs off leash. And I don't think they know any better, whatever over there, but down here where it can affect like the people, the kids, and especially like the little Ryan Goslings down there, it's like, that's where I like, would like to see something for people who don't know, and that's mostly where they go down. When I was here before, Ken was like, oh, they know, but I do see teenage girls and stuff with their dogs, they're 13, who really, there's people who go down there who really honestly don't know, and they don't know that they're doing anything wrong. They're just trying to be nice to their dog. So then, I have pictures of just my little friends down there, Kevin, the Muscovy duck. And he actually was injured like a month ago. So if you go down there and see him on his left eye was bitten. So he doesn't have a left eye anymore. And he has a big scab on his head. And then my last picture is my bunny, who is even on a leash if you ever see me down there, I usually have a rabbit, but they're even on a leash. And then lastly, like, I just Googled Willamette Park West Linn, and if you click on like photos, these pictures of the dog chasing the ducks, I just found that it's the very first video, and there's a lot of pictures of the dogs chasing the ducks and whatever. So anyway, that's my app. I tried to keep it under 5 minutes. I was here before. I'm very, very super grateful of that sign. I'm very proud of it, but that's not where I wanted it. I want it more across from the stage.
Done.
So you're okay if we just move the sign?
Oh, well, we could add another sign. So I would just say, this is really not even a park board. This is from the department. Yes, we will add that
Okay.
sign. That is easy. There was a culture from before, not just necessarily with the last director, but to not put up a lot of signage.
Yeah.
We're not trying to sign everything. But
Yeah,
when you're having a corrective action issue, putting up a sign in the area to educate those who are coming in
mhm,
is our first step. And so that
Yeah.
area where people come up with their dog, parking and walking down that little trail, it's easy to put a sign there because they
Yeah.
don't see the other
and
one,
they
right?
don't, that's the thing, is they
Right.
don't see it,
Yeah.
even when it is trimmed like this. It says like leash, whatever, and then it has the police number, and Ken was like, well, just call the police. Well, I'm not gonna call the police
Yes.
on everybody down there,
No.
like,
That is something that we
know.
do as a school. I think the ordinance needs to be on there. So
Yeah,
please
that's
do
the
come that They
thing.
do know it's an actual ordinance. And
Yeah.
then
we do encourage people to call LOCOM when there is something of danger that, somebody will try to call our parks line and nobody's here, and we actually have no enforcement ability for our department. So
Yeah.
we can definitely improve that sign and add 1 or 2, depending on where those entrances are. That's a very easy thing for us to do.
Yeah.
And
And
I would like to personally thank you for bringing this up.
Mhm.
I'm down there with kayak. I go in and out.
you look familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. You might have seen me with, on my kayak with a bunny on my
Actually,
kayak.
Now that it's the bunny, it's like,
You'll see me down there every day.
I've
In fact,
had-
that's where
I've
I'm
had
going after
dogs-
this.
like attack me as I'm coming
Yeah.
out, trying to get out of my kayak.
Yeah,
And it is a.
I have
ma-
too.
It is a major problem down there. And the land part is so dense with activities and people
Yeah,
that it is a particularly dangerous.
yeah.
It's just not a park to have a dog off leash anywhere.
Yeah,
Really?
there are some that are really well behaved. They're on a leash and I
Absolutely.
love seeing that, even off the leash sometimes. I'm like,
Mhm.
that dog is just stayed right by the owner, but when I see the animals getting killed or like, the people getting knocked over and the kids screaming and it's just like a horror movie down there, then I'm like, sometimes then I just go home. But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up again, Tara, because I really appreciate the sign, but it like went not where I wanted it to go.
So we can do that. That is a super easy ask to do, and it's good to know where we're having those issues.
Yeah.
And it's also, there's always ways that we can, even though we did something one way, we can always look to how to do it differently. And since probably that sign has been put up, there's been a lot of different strategies for working with dogs off leash.
Mhm.
But getting the signage up is number one,
And more people go down there. Like when I first moved to Westland, I was the only person down there summer and winter all
It's a
the time.
regional
And
park now
now,
after COVID.
um,
COVID has brought a lot of people to our area.
there's sometimes, not all the time, but in the summer, a blue garbage that goes right there. And I always use it to pick up all kinds of trash, like even, somewhere right here or something would be awesome without cluttering up the
Yeah.
nature.
Totally.
That's on my ask. If it happens, great. If it doesn't, cool. I was here.
If you have any further questions, that question would come to me and I'd be able to, but I've already wrote it down.
Okay.
Our park supervisor to get a sign up there.
Thank you.
Yeah,
I would
that
appreciate
was
it.
so exciting. Yes, I can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's just like people really don't know, I think a lot of people just don't know that that's an ordinance. I didn't know.
Yeah, there's
You know?
a struggle in communities everywhere of those who know and those who don't know.
Yeah.
right? And also Willamette is a regional park.
Yeah.
It's our local one, but people come in, and so there's some personal
Yeah.
responsibility about dogs on leash too.
But the other thing you see is most of those people that have their dog off the leash, carrying a leash. And if you
Yes.
stop and you talk to them, okay,
Yeah,
if they're honest, most of those people know their dog's supposed to be on a leash.
yeah,
Yeah.
We've dealt with it for many years. The park I spent a lot of time in the area has shown.
yeah,
And if you ever stop for somebody and say your dog should be on a leash, they're holding the leash.
yeah.
And they know their dog's supposed to be on a leash.
And they let him down like right there.
Yes.
The people I've seen come up on kayaks, they don't want to get out, or they come up on a board and they have a little dog, a little whatever with them that's not chained, of course. So when that dog comes off for a second, then a bigger dog sometimes will come after that dog and the person can't get out of the water. It's a big
Yep.
mess. It was nice to meet you all. You can have
No,
it.
can you give me your email?
Oh,
The
yeah.
reason I have other questions about your rescue.
Yeah.
To get
I
involved.
I love doing like animal rescue, bunnies,
We look forward to seeing your bunny again.
gardening.
So let's go ahead and, we don't have any other community comments, so.
Well,
Bye,
I know I'm on the
everybody.
agenda, but I also had a community comment.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you might.
Okay. So you have a community comment
Yeah.
outside of your agenda item?
Right.
Okay.
I'm co-president of the Westland Historical Society, and we've been in existence for 10 years now. And every year, we've had a booth at the Old Time Fair. And I think when we started out 10 years ago, it was like $50 to have a booth there for a nonprofit. And several years ago, it went up to $125, and then last year, it's gone up to $225. And it's the same this year. And we decided this year, it's just too expensive for us. It's not worth it. So, I know the person that ran the fair last year came around to all the booths during the fair and just asked how everything was going. And we mentioned to her then that we felt the price was too high for a nonprofit. And, she said, we'll consider that, but apparently didn't go anywhere. But I don't know if you guys have any input, on park or fair policy like that. But, we'd like to see it be considered to have a nonprofit price in addition to the vendor price. It's the same now, so nonprofits pay the same as the vendor does. So that's just my 2 bits on that. We'd like to come back to the fair again, but it's just not worth it to us, because we're not really selling anything. We're just out there to get our name, known to people and answer questions and stuff. And, to us, $225 is a fair amount.
Yeah,
We don't have a tiered pricing.
That's a great suggestion.
That's a good
yeah, that's a
suggestion.
really good suggestion.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm just learning all of it too, so bringing that up is key. But yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out. The person who ran the fair last year, I mean, everybody runs the fair, right?
Yeah.
But she's no longer, she moved on, and so we're kind of regrouping things too from old what we did before. So having that feedback is really, really important to have.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
And why don't you continue with the Willamette, naming of Willamette Stage in honor of Larry?
Yeah, so some of you probably had known of Larry McIntyre. He was, a mayor of West Linn from 1983 to 1986. He was a founding member of the West Linn Historical Society 10 years ago. And he was involved in a lot of different city activities, volunteering and a lot of different things. But one of the things that he's best known for is his involvement with the Old Time Fair. He was, I don't know how many years, but it goes way, way back. He was the announcer throughout the fair, being up on the stage, announcing activities and stuff. He also was the announcer for the coronation of the ambassador court. And he was just a fixture at the fair, going way, way back, probably before he was mayor. So being a good friend of the Historical Society, we've taken it upon ourselves. We've been talking with Tara about putting a memorial bench somewhere in Willamette Park with a plaque and everything. But we also asked his family if there was anything they would like to see. And they mentioned the naming of the stage after him, after Larry McIntyre. And as far as I know, it doesn't have a name. So that's our request, is that, and I understand that it's the Parks Board, first step is make a presentation to the Parks Board, so that's what I'm doing. And if it happens, we'd like to see it happen before the Old Time Fair this year, so we could have some kind of a ceremony up on the stage sometime during the fair with his family there and stuff, and get a little, plaque that could be somewhere on the stage to recognize him. That is it.
I'm just reading his obituary right now. Okay. I believe that you provided the parks, areas and facilities naming policy.
Yeah,
And I appreciate having that in front of us. What do you suggest as our next step?
Yeah.
Megan?
so when you guys look at this policy, since we're not naming a new park or facility, it goes down to section 2 on the second page.
Right.
And it first starts off with needing a written, essentially a written request, which Roger has the base of that, but I didn't know how far to take this until we had our first meeting. So it goes through the criteria of what that, to be able to get to this point. And so having a written notification, that's something that Roger can, we can do an official submittal of that to the Parks Board. And then it says that the request shall include the proposed name change, purpose change, how the name will change and consistent with the criteria established, which was on the first page. It should be used with to determine appropriateness of the naming designation, geographical location, natural feature, a person non-living or place of historical or cultural significance, a person non-living group or feature particularly identified with the land or facility. And I think Roger's clearly got that one covered with what he's already presented. Then the next part that it comes down to is it says the recognized neighborhood association will be notified of the proposal to the department when the application or the information is complete. That is what we can go to if you guys decide to continue to pursue this. The next one that I'm a little bit confused on how to do, and I've got to ask some other departments, is on B. It says the PRAB board will offer opportunity to the public to have input on the proposed name. And so I need to find out the best way to go about doing that. So I need to ask a couple questions, probably of Kathy Molesky, of how things have been handled like that in the past. Were you here for any of the other namings of anything? Oh, not you, okay. That's the one I have to ask the how.
But all we've ever dealt with before is benches that get.
Right, and those are the different,
Benches always have somebody's name on it.
and that's a different program versus
Right.
naming a facility. So, and then at that point, after you get all that information, then we would present it to council to get that approved. And I would love to be able, if this is something you want to pursue, and wouldn't it be great to have it at the fair, if that's where you decide to go with it, that we can get that going, and that, even if we can't get the plaque in time, we can still have the ceremonial part of that. So I think I need to find out some information. I was thinking, even with our next Parks Board, if I help get this kind of whatever this formalized written process is, I can email in advance of our next meeting. And then we can get that part, and I can schedule to be at council if approved to go right behind it and get that approved so that we'd be ready for the fair if everything checks out, which it appears that.
And Willamette neighborhood.
And that, yep, exactly, get that notification. So I guess I could ask, and I'm guessing you guys, you can maybe direct me to continue to gather information to present to you. It maybe be, I don't know if it's a motion, but maybe that would be the
My,
issue.
my only possible concern.
Yeah, definitely.
is, if somebody says, I didn't know that we were looking for a name,
Mm-hmm.
let's create the opportunity for different people to offer suggestions and then have a selection process.
Right.
That would be the only concern I might have. I've just gone through naming schools many times, and it is a contentious process.
Right.
And so, on the surface, I think this is lovely.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think through,
The possibility of something that could hang it up, or that could be larger than what we're thinking.
well, just,
And that's what I want to ask about the how, like, how do we do
yeah,
that?
it would be a fair concern if someone felt passionately about the opportunity to name a stage
Mhm.
that, well, if you're going to come up with a new name for the stage, let's open that up to other suggestions.
Yes.
Is the only potential concern I might have. But I mean, you wanted a different process, so I'm putting together the agenda for next month before we leave and getting it to you
Oh,
so that it can be up and posted
yeah.
with plenty of advance notice. And then, I mean, we could say that is, the notice, and if people want to come and talk, we can have that on the agenda for our next meeting. I just think that the city would probably just need to be savvy in their decision making
Yeah.
on, oh, somebody wants to name this, let's go forward versus, we want to name the stage, what's the best process to get there?
Yeah, so I think a couple of recommendations. One, for Roger, in the written application, you focus on honoring Larry McIntyre rather than the stage. But when it comes to the stage, the question comes to my mind is how old is that stage? How long has it been there? And if it's been there, let's say it's been there 30 years, the stage has been there for 30 years, and Larry is the fit for this, which we didn't intend to name, but this is a way to honor him rather than, oh, we just noticed the stage didn't have a name, so. Yeah, so kind of aim it like that, and I think if we approach it that way too, we might be able to avoid that. It's not, we're not really opening this up. We don't want to open it up for a lot of other good ideas.
I don't think you want to send a thing, we need to name the stage.
No, exactly.
I want to be very clear. I am not in any way suggesting.
Yeah, no, but it's a legitimate concern.
I think that's covered actually in the wording of B. But it says, offer the opportunity for public input on the proposed naming.
Mhm.
So it's not inviting people to give their input on what they think it should be. It's like you're
Should be,
saying.
yeah.
Like you're presenting it as an honoring
Yeah.
person. I
Yeah.
can't imagine anyone not wanting a Larry McIntyre's name on that stage, but you're right.
But since we haven't gone through this, I think all these
I-
comments are really
yeah.
important. I'm thinking to other processes, like I said, what if the rec center does happen? You know, it's good to, thank you for helping us vet this out.
Sure.
And I was just gonna say, I think tying it, the association with the fair to the stage, right? I mean, how often do you see the stage used except for the fair, right? And so that,
It's used a lot. I've been within so many. Scouts
okay,
a lot.
okay.
Weddings, bands, yeah, a lot of rentals. Yeah, it's used a lot.
Well, I guess the point I was gonna make is, if it's a plaque kind of doing the memorial versus big letters all the way across,
Right.
I mean, that's gonna cause different
Yeah.
people's reactions, right? And so,
That might be important to have in the information that you're
Yeah.
presenting as what, a general idea of the size of the plaque that would go,
Yeah.
in general, so that it does paint that picture of what it
Right.
really is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It'd also be good to get the age of the stage, because we were saying mayoral, which was 40 years ago. So then that would be prior to that, then, could have been 50 years ago, if he was involved in.
You're talking about the small one, not the beer garden one, right?
yes.
Yeah, it's not gonna be that old.
Okay.
I mean, it's been rebuilt.
It's been rebuilt and.
Been rebuilt,
modified,
yeah.
but it's been there for
But the-
many years.
It had a real huge modification, yeah. Okay. So I propose that we put it on the agenda. We'll Willamette Park stage naming at our next meeting and treat the regular notification and having a separate agenda item for it as the open
Yeah.
dialogue.
That sounds great. And then what I will do is I can make sure that the information you provide, and you can let me know, I can get that out beforehand so you can read it in advance, I'll put it with the notes in the agenda.
Okay.
Okay.
So we can have some review ahead of time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I would love to stay for the rest of your meeting, but I've been gone all week and.
Credibility shot now.
It's a really nice day for you out there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Great to see you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
Tara, are you ready?
Oh, no, but
I stretched her out. I want
I'm
to
live
use
all
the,
day. I think it's.
Recreation Center update and review of the tour of Hidden Creek.
so I'll talk a little bit and not have Tara have the pressure of all of us looking at the screen. For those who were able to attend the Hidden Creek tour, it was quite exciting to see the reaction from what people were seeing, to see it being in use, to look at the ideas. And we had a tour with the facility manager there, so we got some insight as to things that didn't work, like mechanically wise, but the room setups were, it was really beautiful, and to see it nestled in within a park. And then to see where the potential pool would go in the future was quite inspiring. And so a couple of things, I was going to bring up the link. I sent it to those who couldn't make the meeting to let me know, but I wanted to just show a couple pictures of it. The Opsis, who's our designer, their website is quite fabulous and it's beautiful to look at. But a couple things that are coming up soon, just so you know, is we have our steering committee meeting next week. On the 16th, and then everything we're doing right now is pushing to get people to the open house on the 23rd. And there is quite a scurry going behind the scenes. I'm acting very calm, but Ryan and I are best friends now with the office people, with everything going on. There is information being created that we're able to have. I'm hoping to have them printed by Friday or early next week, where I can get to if you're able to go. The ask I think we have right now is if anybody is going to their neighborhood association, going to another community organization where you're at, to be able just to say, hey, we want to notify this process is going on. You don't have to be the authority on everything that's occurring, but to be able to say, hey, we want to make sure you have your voice. Here's some information. Where Ryan sent out an email and I forwarded it to all of you. That's just something kind of cookie cutter that you can take and share. But I wanted to have something for you to be able to take. And we're thinking of this information, our toolkit that we want to build in kind of two phases. One is just information to get out to go get your voice heard. And then all of the things with the renderings that'll be finalized next week. I can't wait for you to see them. More information that will have more robust with the numbers and the renderings on there for people to really see it as we start to get closer to that June date. So that's happening right now. We are also reviewing the polling questions, which is leading to the questionnaire. So that's all coming out in the next couple of weeks. Reviewing the operational dollars and the overall cost of the facility is coming out. So all of these things will be building to that. When we get to the open house, that information will be there, the renderings, the cost, the operational cost, and how to build it, or what it's going to cost to build. So there's a lot coming behind the scenes. And then as soon as that meeting's hit, there's the polling's occurring and that questionnaire will be going out the following week after. It's like a 2-week window where it's pushing through. We've been having a few more meetings scheduled. I just met with the Adult Community Center group that's there at lunchtime. It was a fabulous meeting. I had such a great time talking with them and kind of dreaming of showing. I still realize people don't necessarily understand what recreation is and what community recreation centers can be. And so trying to explain, first off, that we're not trying to push this rec center down them. We're really, truly wanting the answer. We really want, if people don't want it, we want to hear. If people want it, why do they want it? We want to hear. So when we go back to council and say, this is truly what we heard. So being very transparent about that, but also I had to remind, like we were talking about, a lot of people think of the rec center for youth. So as we're sitting there, I'm like, we're right above Rosemont. I said, where are the kids right now at lunchtime? I go, who's going to be at the rec center right now? It's going to be you. It's going to be adults who work from home. It's going to be stay-at-home parents. You could be taking your kid to drop, grandchild over to do a play group, or you can drop your kid off and go work out. I mean, there's just different things that you can be doing. So it's really trying to explain, to ask people how they can see themselves using it. It's that conversation we're really working on. So there's a lot more information coming to you. You'll get before the meeting. I'm hoping to send more information next week when I get the flyers, or even saying, hey, I have some, do you want to pick them up? Or we'll make it available. All of the display boards are getting updated right now too, and we'll have those ready to go after that next steering committee meeting, or the open house meeting with extras if people want to take them or check them out, but take them if you want to. So we'll have that ready to go. But thank you, Tara. For those who could not be there, and I'll make this quick because I think I'm going to be talking a lot at UDOL today. But the facility was just really well designed. And it was really, I think we had 5 staff members there. And they even said, when you walked in, you felt very welcome. You can see here that it's nestled within an actual park that's there on the other side. It's got this forested property. And I don't know if you saw in the news that big play structure that's a monkey.
It's a monkey.
Remember seeing that all, that's at the site. If you
Yeah.
ever get a chance to go,
Really cool.
it's beautiful. And then this is the area where the pool will be going in the future. There's currently a playground there now, I mean, on the far side, but there's a section ready for the pool. But the structures and elements really tied it into the park and the landscaping as well. And it really feels like a place to come and gather and be. And when we walked through this site, this right area, you wanted to sit there. I mean, we actually did. I mean, it was so pretty. And you have the front of the building here. You have this area that's for community rooms for renting out, holding conferences. And then the area behind us, behind like where we're at, it was the active recreation facility.
Real fast, going back to that picture.
Yeah.
Were there, I'm so sorry, I
No,
couldn't
it's
attend.
fine.
Were there any accordion doors or
Yeah.
garage doors that open? Because I'm looking at that big wall of windows. Does that open up?
So this leads to the parking lot. And as you know, we were talking, we want people to ask for those things. But you do know things get valued engineered out.
Yeah.
There was an area that did that for them. So but the doors open, so this is an extension. And they purposely designed that you could stand here and look through this room out to there, out to the park area. And so when you get to this area, I believe they wanted to have roll-up doors. They have big open doors for that, but they couldn't. I think it ended up taking that away. But I said, we all want that, right? We all want it.
Yeah.
I thought that it was beautiful. It kind of reminded me a little of the Frank Lloyd Wright look, where, you know, the outdoors is in, enhancing it, the inside, you're enhancing looking out. And so it's a lot of the same kind of design look that they're looking for us.
There's also, if you can go back
Oh, yeah,
for a
this-
second,
no, no,
Megan,
totally.
so from right about where you're standing, there's a screen that can pull across so that if someone's having a private, you know, a wedding or reception, something like that, you can kind of wall it off from the people coming and going to the rec center. I thought that was a really
It was
really good
brilliant.
feature.
Yeah.
I mean, also think of staffing it at night, right? You close off the recreation, like so say we close at 6 o'clock on Sunday, you have a rental, you close off that active area. It's not a part of the rental, but you can come in, access this area, restrooms, everything on both sides. It just was done really well. Harry even said these little ones were comfortable to sit on. The gymnasium was, again, I think even for our staff, hadn't really even seen how to dream what this looks like. If you notice, up top, there's that divider that Ryan had talked about, and then this other divider, so you can make this into 4 rooms. When we were there, this divider was dropped down, and so it was into 2 courts. There was people playing pickleball on one side, and the other side was drop and play, where they had all the large foam crawling, geometrical shapes. So you know, grandma, mom can come in, and their kids are actively socializing and playing. It was quite fun to see. This workout facility up top, you can see looks over into the gymnasium area. And again, look at this little lounge area that Ryan was talking about creating. And the class was full when we were in there. We still don't know what they were doing. It was full. Was it Pilates? Without all the extra Pilates equipment, right?
Some kind of like version.
And this room was gorgeous, again, looking out with all the natural light and the fan circulation going on. And did you notice there's also a screen up there? So it's another multi-purpose, you know, for how else you might be able to use that room. This there, I'm gonna see if this screen, no, this one, this kind of feel like it doesn't do it justice after those who saw it. It's a really vast room. And when you looked at even the age of the group of people in there working out, we were there at 11, so probably about closer to 12. There was a wide range of different age groups up there. And what they have done is that upstairs, because it's all this heavier equipment, no children are allowed up here for just, we were asking, how do you manage that? Are kids running up? And they said, no, they just make that is, you know, not the kid area. Obviously little kid area. I'm sure they do things for middle school and older, but it was neat to see how they were managing that, and it seemed to be working great. This is that accordion space there that you can see. So this is this would be like our community room. So it's like the first slide I showed you behind through that door. So
They're showing the door open.
yeah, this is the kitchen area. and would be kind of what is being asked for, at least of a, not a commercial kitchen, which takes a lot of space, but it is actually a large warming kitchen. It had
Catering kitchen.
catering kitchen,
Yeah.
that's it, exactly. So if somebody rented that, they can pay for that. That door would open, obviously it keeps opening and closing. But there are dividers that this turns into 3 rooms. You've got the tech there. And then this is where they would have liked to have had these roll up doors, but they ended up with just regular doors. But you don't really, even if you were having a wedding and your reception out, you'd still have that connection, right? This was a really cool spot. Yeah. So you know how I talked about overhangs for all of our climates? Look at what's above. Those are solar panels that are keeping the rain off as well. And then they said they're double, let me see if I get this right. They're double paneled so that there's radiant heat that comes
That
off.
will
so they get- Yes.
reflected light off the concrete
Yeah,
and glass, yeah.
it was really, I was like, is that really waterproof? And it is. Yeah, it was really neat to see that. This is from the park side, looking back at that community space.
What are those huge beams? Like just
These?
giant glue
They're
lamps
wood.
or is it-
Yeah.
Wood.
Or something.
No.
They're glued, like 2x8s, 2x10s, yeah, just stacked
Stacked, yeah.
on top, yeah.
And we didn't get to see it at night. I don't know if anybody else, I saw it at night the first time. It was just really beautiful.
It's an impressive structure.
Well, and it's about the same size, as what people are asking for here, right? The other area that was just, I wanted to show this only because it gives you, this is a rendering, Woodburn's going out for theirs right now. But it does show you the double gym with the track, so don't, you can see Jim's drawings there, and love that it's just drawing. This is a little bit similar, different layout, but we have the workout facilities around up top because of the gym placement. But I wanted you to see what the double gym with the walking track above looked like,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
that is neat.
I mean, look at the art potentially, right? Some of these students are rendering, oh, they've got a pool.
Never-
So I just thought it was something to kind of be able to see how we're really, leveraging that space. And you'll get to see, I can't wait for you to see the renderings. I've only seen like 3 of them and I'm like, but I think it'll really give people a chance to look. And I think, again, when I'm talking, it's really how do you see each person I talk to, how do you see yourself using it, your family using it? If you don't have children, again, how are you going to age here? And how, if maybe you can't do it now, but what would this look like? And so I think it's pretty exciting to see.
We were there late morning, on a weekday, and the exercise area, the recreational part was not full, but everything was being used. And the parking lot was full. So it's getting a lot of use. And I don't know, how big is Hillsborough? It's 100,000,
Yeah.
okay, so it's bigger than we are, but,
Underground for just like 20 years.
yeah.
Oh,
My guess is that they will be regretting they don't have a bigger one, or they'll be looking to build a second one, because it was a lot of people.
It was packed. Yeah, I felt lucky that I found a parking spot. I think the part that's kind of neat that it also mimics a bit what we're looking at is that, the playground was on the back side and it didn't look like there was a lot of parking on that side. I didn't get to talk. But, people were parking there and they're walking on these pathways through these, these landscaped areas, and they had a parkour area. They had all these kind of lounge spaces that were really fun to sit at. And then they had these 2 amazing playgrounds. So you can see how that's, and I think of the same thing, right? We have our Tanner Creek Park, it's very limited parking, but then you have this, so, to help offset that. Oh, we all the
No, so, who from city council attended? Mary, you said you did.
There.
And
Lynn came.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
and Rory
Great.
yeah,
and Carol.
Care.
Oh,
Yeah.
great representation.
yeah, absolutely.
My
So-
favorite was the hammock grove. You can rent a hammock and there's these poles and it's kind of arranged. And you can grove,
Yeah, heard of that.
Not on trees, but on.
Yeah.
poles that they,
Wow.
yeah.
So
Be fun.
Ryan did videotape all of kind of the tour, and he's working on trying to condense that so we can share that
Good.
for us, also for the community to just kind of get a real life view of what's possible. Oh yeah, thank you. I won't be here too long. We are working on updating our website. There's some things that we can't control, like this, like, why does it have to be there, but it's there. But we're updating this right now, and something that part of what Ryan, we sent out is that, now if you see me, I accidentally throw a pen during this meeting. I hope it's not on camera. I popped out and I was like, but we are wanting to make sure to get people to see this. We're hoping to have the other video of the other, looking at Hidden Creek, and then updating the FAQs. We're also going to be doing a pretty large social media ad campaign coming up here shortly to get the word out of just, again, it's like kind of the opposite of get the vote, like get your voice heard.
Right. right.
That's happening.
Thank you.
That'll be
Excellent.
coming out shortly. So we'll be updating this, and we got more documents that are coming in too. So that information, at least people will get here, and the FAQs are getting updated. I'm trying to find a way to get that a bigger push for people to read that. Karen was not able to be here, but she did a really great job. She was talking, and again, she's newer to our board, right? She's been to the open house, and she's been a really great advocate. She gave me a whole list of questions of what people were just in her conversations of people she knew or people she was walking by at Marius Young. And there's just quite a few people that don't know the nuts and bolts of this, like who's paying for it? How are we getting it? Am I gonna have to pay when I get in there? Hoping that kids will be able to go there after school. It's just kind of those same stock questions, like who's supposed to use it? How are we paying for it? And the information's all there, but how to get it to them and how to engage them in to really participate. Some people just who are against it won't, but for those who may be curious, I want to do some A-frame boards, especially with Karen being there down at Marius Young, that just has the QR code that first goes to the back and then takes you to the website. Hopefully just to engage, they know what it really is. Looking at where else, like doing it at Tanner Creek, and I'm talking in the next week or so, right before we get to the open house. And then also, it reminded me of why we probably made those business cards that have the QR code on it, because she could have it in her pocket and pull it out and just hand it to somebody, and they can take it and scan it. So really trying to get some of that information together, because I really want to come back to council with for such a short time frame to give as much feedback as we can. The neat part about what we're doing right now with the social media is we're going to be able to get data from how many hits and from what sources that we'll be able to at least track that information too. Which also leads to next week at Wednesday, I have us down, the Parks Board, to be at the market. So I'm working with Ryan to get some information set. I've got to remember who said that they can be there. I think it was two people, Diana and Mary can be there, and I'm hoping.
I think I can.
Okay, so we're gonna have a Parks and Rec table too, or booth as well. We kind of wish they were side by side, but what we'll do is we'll get everything set up. We're gonna have some of the display boards, have some information, maybe some of the, I don't know if I can have all the renderings because they haven't been shown anywhere else yet. I'm gonna get what I can get out there and have things so people can talk. And again, for those who are there, again, you don't have to be the full know of everything, but we have all the places to get the information, but I can print the FAQ. I'm going to do it as if I'm happy to be there to talk to. So if there's something specific you're thinking, but thinking of the display board's key and having the QR code there, right there, so people can get in to sign up. Yeah, I did.
How soon will those things be ready? And do we set that up?
We're going to be there to set it up. Yeah, we're going to be there. So we'll get there with a booth, we'll get the table, we'll get things. Alyssa, who does our marketing, was thinking, okay, can we hang them from the edge of the booth so people can kind of walk in versus it just being a standing, like how do you make it the most welcoming? So we'll be working on that.
Okay.
And yeah. So, and you guys, and then we can get the table, and you guys can set it up however you want. We can at least get those pieces together. So that starts at 4. Is that right? What time do you think we'd be heading down there? Like around 3?
Probably 3:15.
Yeah.
3:30 at the latest.
So if you guys came around 3:30ish, or at least somebody, if you can't be there at 4, we'll be there. I have to leave early. I have to be in Portland by 7:30, but I'll be there at least to start. And we can get it rolling and see what kind of feedback we get. So Yeah.
Nice and warm.
So thank you for that. We're really excited.
And then to get up to speed, should I just pull up the FAQ on this?
Yes,
Is that
I
the best
have,
way for me?
yes, I have a new FAQ that I have, it's just tidier, so you can read it. There's just some more information that's been tweaked now that we know a little bit more. Trying to keep it in 2 pages is really tricky. It feels like it's not enough space. But you can read that now, but no, it'll be updated here shortly. There's just a line I have to make sure I can put in there. So yeah, so that's coming. I really appreciate you all being willing to do that. And then we're gonna look at what other opportunities we have coming up. I think if Parks Board members feel comfortable, either forwarding that email that I sent to your neighborhood associations or anybody, if you feel comfortable going, again, I don't want to put anybody in. I told Ryan, I said, if I'm going to a neighborhood association, I want to at least have a flyer. Like, we can talk about it, but I want to leave people with something if they want to take it with them. So we're working on that. And actually, just to let you know, I don't know if you know Shatrine, who is part of the chamber. She is helping us out as well. So she has been helping, our communications coordinator is off on leave right now. And so we're helping, so Shatrine is helping us also get information to the businesses too. So,
Do we have, along this line?
yeah,
Do we have like a Google Doc or somewhere where, like, I'll be at Lem Neighborhood Association at this
they
date?
should.
So that for 2 things. One,
Like,
we don't double down, you know, Mary goes 1 week, I go the next. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
yeah.
And then we know, hey, why don't we do this together?
Yeah.
And then 2, we have a comprehensive record of all of the ways we try to
Yeah.
get engagement.
I love it.
Yeah.
We will get that together and send that out, absolutely, with the steering committee too. And that would be great, because I just would even put in there that I went and talked to the ACC group, you know, we want to just capture that.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that is excellent. Okay.
Eagle Scout project every minute.
So,
I don't know.
so I'll probably make sure to reach out to see who is able to come to the open house. I will tell you, that was huge to have members who could be there, council members, steering committee members. And for those, who weren't there, it was not a lecture style, right? It was come in and walk. And yeah, it is. Yeah, it worked out. I wouldn't want to come and sit there. If I had a question, I wouldn't ask in
Right.
front of everybody.
Much better.
It was way much.
Easier for people to ask questions, and you can talk to people for a longer period of time if you needed it,
Yeah,
which is much different than if you get somebody one-on-one, it's much easier to deal with stuff.
absolutely.
Maybe people that are kind of like, I'm not so sure we ought to have this, you know,
Yeah,
how would I use it? You know?
right. And that's it, right? Because you have kind of an idea. I mean, a lot of people think rec center, think youth. Like, that's only part of and if we're trying to have this robust funding mechanism for it, it can't all be youth, right? It's gotta be all of our demographics coming to use it, and, you know, potentially those outside the city too.
I think having the pictures is really
Oh, it's
important,
key.
because people I think that we can't underestimate how people put an image in their own mind. They're imagining that something is totally different, and then they're saying, no, I don't want that. But what they're imagining isn't what we're talking about.
Yes,
But we need to be able to show them. So if we could have, even if we can't have our own rendering yet,
no, but I mean, but if you think of everything, those will come out but even for what you've already seen at the last open house, that's all available and updated
good.
for
Yeah,
the
that's great.
market to be able to, and to
For next
me.
Wednesday.
Yep. And the thing that was really key for me when they had made the first board, they had, you know, our arts and culture, if you would want to say recreation, as far as, you know, like crafts and music and those type of things. And you had the active recreation. To me, it was so important to see that passive community space where it's just our community gathering location. And that's why we had that third board, because you don't have to pay to do any of that, right? You can come and be your center without paying for anything. You can meet somebody for coffee. You can come and maybe play, you know, table tennis, or, I mean, they actually did, even inside of, they didn't have a team lounge area, but they had air hockey and they had football, right? And table tennis, I can't ever recall the right, pickleball, I know, ping pong, thank you. I can never pull it out. But it was neat to see how they made the spaces work and be engaging and welcoming. So, yeah, so pictures are key, I think, so key. So, okay. Again, I'm talking at y'all a lot today, making it so.
You know what, this meeting, we knew that
Are
we
you
would
sure?
have a lot of
Okay.
information download. Their last meeting, it's like, this is what's
Okay.
going to be really important.
Okay,
So.
I'm glad.
We were actually prepared.
All right, I was like, I have my water just in case. But I will, I probably what I'll do is Karen wanted me, I'm gonna share what she wrote from people. And I think it's just key again, when we're talking with people, it kind of helps what's missing in our conversation. So that is great. The next one I wanted to show you, and I was gonna print something, but I think the website really does a great job. So currently we're working right now, the city is, of trying to showcase getting a document together to be able to send out to the public to say, hey, look at what we've done with this last bond that we did. And where are the progresses, what's happened with that. And so this is not that document, but there has been a lot of updates on here, and it is a good place to start when looking at what has all been accomplished and where we're still going. And so when you come in here, the financial data isn't necessarily the best on here. It takes you to a dashboard. But knowing the process and the details are the key. And so we have a whole section of parks, and I think everybody knows that under my jurisdiction, I also have all the facilities too. So when you look at sometimes where my time is spent, it's shared. But you'll see the majority of our items are completed, and Ken and the team did such a fabulous job. I will say though, some of the ones that are left are the really heavy hitters. So for athletic field renovations, when you click up here, we actually have everything done. They have everything completed. You'll see the date, the time frame when it had worked. Now my name's on there. But then kind of a recapture of what we've done in some images. What has not been completed right now is at Hammerly. I'm still trying to understand why we delayed, but the answer was at the moment was because Oppenlander was becoming a source of conversation and there wasn't additional funding for it, right? We have the bond passed for purchasing, but actually doing the work. So this is still earmarked, but I'm right now reviewing our bond projects and funding. I guess that's why I'm going to show you what we're working on. But now my job is to recap what has been done, what budget's left, and what can really be accomplished in the next few years. And I'm working with John and Lauren on that to then figure out if things have to shift, how we present that. So that's one that's not completed. But if you look at all of these other ones, and I won't go through all of it, if you get a chance, it's really fun to see what's been completed. Marius Young is one that's a little bit trying to figure that one out too, because the great work that has been completed, they renovated one restroom, and then there's been some amenities added to the site. And I'm still looking to see with our parks master plan if there's specific amenities that we are missing or what was slated for that. But we did get new picnic tables in the dog park area, the new bike racks come in. So trying to see where else there was potential of wanting to add a swing in the park over by the climbing rocks. So I'm kind of evaluating with that money, what else is needed. Keep scrolling down. When you see the ones that are blank, those were projects that had changed from the original intent and scope. So the McLean House, when the Friends had dissolved, they had a fundraising part that was going to add to this to build a permanent shelter at that site. That has been put on hold since there's that fundraising mechanism that's no longer there. But in addition, you will hear next week that planning will be presenting the formal designation for approval for council to take to put the McLean House on the National Registry. So that would also include the parkland. That was something that was started before I got here. So it's already locally a historic house, but this will take it to the National Registry. A couple good things that come out of that is it opens us up for more grant opportunities for when we go to care for the house. It is a little bit trickier though, that some of the requirements of that make it cost a little bit more to be able to maintain and repair the house. But I think the idea is it's going to be a really great, since we don't have a means of funding that house besides our basic maintenance. This will give us an avenue to keep it running in good health. When you come down to the White Oak Savannah, I think you guys probably had talked a bit about in the past, but it's still listed on here as a potential project for 2027. So that was pulled off the bond, but I'll be working with them to see what is possible with the things that they were looking at and what are the needs of the park and will most benefit it. The White Oak Savannah. So the ones that are really, the big ones, that are left is Willamette Park, and there's 3 different ones at Willamette, correct? So part of this project has been completed. There's the new roof on the gazebo has been completed. The parking along the river, along the Tualatin is something that we're working on as well, that's tied to the non-motorized boat launch. So right now we have a contract and I'm working on 30% design review, design to make that non-motorized boat launch with the parking lot and improving the old boat launch that's there. I really stalled it in some ways that I brought in our maintenance staff. I'm currently bringing in our engineering staff and our planning staff to really look at what is going to make it successful and really usable. I think I had told you, if I had, please tell me and I won't tell you again. But we took video footage of how fast the Tualatin River comes down at that space and the amount of down trees that come. If you ever go walk down there, you see the amount of lumber. And to design a non-motorized boat launch that goes out in that area where the high rapids to an eddy, we're worried about not just, usually maintenance staff is like, I'm worried about having to maintain it. No, they're worried about having to maintain it to keep it safe. So we're looking at redesigning. So I kind of paused that design and I've asked them to come back with some different renderings and I'll be bringing those to you guys. I don't know if it's shortly, but before we go too far of a shift to figure out what that project will look like. Initially, there was some hopes to do some improvements on Bolt Street that was from the previous 2 directors, primarily with the public works. That is not a part of the project anymore. It's a whole different, there's no funding for it. So we're focusing on the river side and the park amenity side. So that is moving forward right now. The Willamette River access is another interesting project. Have everybody been down to what's called the catwalk? Have you seen that? Okay. Oh,
That terrifying ladder.
So if you haven't, it's definitely one. I'm looking at trying to figure out how to make it more here right now. But if you were to park, you can't really park very easily near historic city hall. But if you go down by the paper mill area, there is a fishing platform that's down in the Willamette. It is heavily used from what I hear.
I hope it's someone on it.
Right. Well, and I grew up in Canby, so you used to see on the Oregon City Bridge when you come to Oregon City, all the people fishing on that side. Well, they don't come no longer do that. That area, first off, is not parkland, it's PGE property. And so I don't know how we got that, but it's definitely an interesting look. There's quite a bit of work that needs to be done there. There was an idea that you would have a zigzag trail to make it more accessible, and it's on a rock cliff. So that is one that I'll be talking with John about and figuring out. I mean, these things obviously were presented in 2017. It's a time to kind of look at what are our options and what would make it the most successful, making it the most safe we can. And like I said, what we can. So that's another project that's still out there. And this is the real big one that we'd love all to make happen, is the pathway that would lead from Willamette to Arch Bridge.
Excuse me, but it's a lot more than
Oh.
a pathway. It was really,
Oh, I was gonna read, yeah.
it's a whole waterfront used area.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what's included in here is adding that it's a roped off swimming area with natural area habitat improvements. And so it is a very large project where we don't own all the property to get the trail all the way through. There's private land, PGE land. And so it is a very dynamic project that is going to be a very long-term, long-range goal. So trying to figure out what we can do within this bond period, what is, feasible to do now, what is overall need. I mean, there's just a lot of questions that I need to get up to speed on and figure out how to make some headway on it. There's a lot there in that 3 sentences.
I think that we need to be sensitive to this because when we got the GO bond, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a parks bond was going away.
Mhm.
And it's like, well, this kind of continues it
Mhm.
and it's going to be parks plus a little.
Yes.
And this was a big part of that.
Yes,
And
totally.
so I think that, you know, this is the one I think just for integrity purposes, we gotta figure this out.
Yeah, for $700,000, it's not gonna get you all of that. So that's what I'm needing to find out and talk the strategy and what to bring back to you, what to bring back to council as to what is our steps to start this process. Because that's not gonna get you all of that by any means. The non-motorized boat launch, you know, with all of that project would be, you know, I mean, that's a different project, right? I'm just saying for a scope of work and
Mhm.
cost. Yeah, so that's what I want to find out now is, so I'm coming to you very honestly, going to say, I need to go back and see, what do we do if we have this amount of funding? How does this process, how do we start making the headway on it? And how do we start? So,
Access. is
Yeah.
Really one of the big
Mhm.
questions.
Yeah.
PGE is, not necessarily going to be accepted. Um, I'm very interested in encouraging the city and council to work on PGE a little bit, because they have a lot more land than they really need to generate power.
yeah.
And I'd like to start having those conversations. Just on this topic, Rory and I just did a float last weekend.
On a soggy day.
Yeah, we got
Soggy.
drenched from the river and the sky, but we floated from, that little put in by the Stafford overpass over to the Twelfth River, over the dam and down to the Willamette
How fun.
in a big raft, with like a whitewater outfitter company. Anyway, so there were 2 rafts and an inflatable kayak, but the important part of it was that I was sitting and talking to the Tualatin River Keeper Executive Director, Linn, but I'm also talking to and excited about the newly at the helm of Willamette River Keeper is Bob Ballinger, who's very interesting advocate for public access, and so is Glenn C. Their whole mission is public access.
Right.
So I'm hoping that we can work that
Yeah.
into this conversation. And maybe that
Absolutely.
there would be money available for creating public access trails and
Well, our
amenities.
focus was really on Willamette Trail
Mm-hmm.
because there are,
Right, this would be the Willamette Trail.
the Willamette,
Almost like a pairing to it, like
Yeah.
that's like the non-motorized boat launch, that's the pairing to
That's
its
exactly right.
access.
Yeah,
You have the-
yeah.
Right, it's like they're all kind of are connected together, and they're, the Marine Board, I think the reason why that non-motorized boat project came up, and it would be the first ADA accessible, that's the other part of that makes that dynamic. I mean, how cool,
yeah.
but it also adds a layer of complexity to that really crazy confluence, right? And so that the Marine Board has said that they would have money for that, and that's why that kind of risen to the top.
Yeah.
They're also looking at how do we improve the Fields Bridge access? That fishing dock is gonna have to come down at some point. It's failing. We're gonna try to secure it for the summer, and then, but that's another opportunity right there. Cook Park in Tigard. They're doing a non-motorized ADA accessible boat launch, but theirs is at a stagnant part of the 12. And I was like, oh, you guys are fair.
Yeah.
But you think of the 12s, and even there, it's not stagnant, but it definitely flows slower, you know, compared to the other side, you know, at Fields Bridge. So that accessible part is very key. I mean, it very much so is. So what my caution was, I wanted to say, I want you guys to know, I'm looking at this, but there's some heavy lifting to go here, and we don't want to put it off, but I want to figure out strategically where to focus our efforts and how are we going to get far with the money that we have? What are our options to move forward? And so I haven't been able to dive into this just because of my workload, but I wanted to make sure it's known to you guys that it is a top priority to figure out the next steps. But currently, right now, I'm really working on the non-motorized boat because that contract was to get that 30% design. And once I get a little bit further along, I'll be able to bring that to you and show you kind of some of the concepts. But for me, the part that's been great about this is it's not a silo, which is the Parks Department. It's all of the departments that are around and then bringing in the community too, which is quite. And then, you know, I have all these other ones, but we'll talk about it. But anyway,
But that trail's been part of the Parks Board plan for
Oh,
25 years.
totally get that, but it's like, how do you take that, which $700,000, we gotta acquire land and purchase land, so how do we go, what is the most strategic way to go about doing that, and that's what I wanna find out. Yeah, so it's definitely a high priority, but how do we do the most with what we have? Yeah, because I think it'll be a forever ongoing project, which is great, because we gotta get to the bridge. It'll be so cool. But then we gotta change our maintenance then as well. I was telling Jen that somebody will have to be dedicated down there. Okay, so that's my Parks Board Go on update. And I can have Tara then. I can stop sharing for a moment. I'll close this with the, oh. Nope, oh, is that? Would I just like
Click on that.
stop? I was just, yeah, and then. It's back to- Oh, it's back. I didn't know if anybody else is there.
No, sometimes it says, are you still there? Keep recording. Still recording, that's good. Okay. Mine's probably short and sweet. Not a lot happening since April, but you know.
Are you serious?
Well, we're gearing up for things, but event, so event wise. A lot of behind the scenes. So we did have, we had our Earth Day work day, April 20th. Great turnout. We had about 90 volunteers, we figure. Throughout the morning, we were down at Willamette Park, so working on that Willamette Trail, getting a lot of debris out, ice and invasive, spreading chips, beautifying the wetland shelter. And then heron watches this Sunday at Maddox Woods. If you get a chance to go out and check out the heron. There's
Really
lots of
cool.
nests out there, so the volunteers are pretty excited to show that off.
Could you say that again? I'm sorry,
The heron watch is on Sunday at Maddox Woods.
What time is that?
Oh, I think it's
Okay, I-
11 or 1. Oh, I should have brought the flyer. You can go check on your website too, yeah.
Sometimes they have it twice, so sometimes.
Yeah, so. They have it like ongoing.
Yeah, it's kind of been sporadic, so, Marla is the one, she's a Maddox Woods volunteer, so she puts them out and brings out.
Yeah, it's usually on the weekends, because
Yeah.
parents bring their kids.
Yeah, it's usually on Sundays. So that's on, yeah, so we were down there probably a couple weeks ago. And a lot of the eggs were hatching. You can kind of hear the, you know, the talking and stuff. So they're getting a little bigger each time. But she said there's pretty much the same amount of nests as last year. So they're not, you know, dwindling very much because there are some people in the area that are not their friends.
1 to 3.
Yes, and I think there's one more after that, or a couple more until June, like several.
Let's see, the 12th and the 2nd of
May
June.
and June, yeah, so a couple more.
They do such a
Yeah.
great job, and then you see their
Mhm.
kids' activities.
Yeah.
On certain days.
It's pretty neat.
They do a great job.
And our ACC had, their first, they called it a mini market last Wednesday. They did it during the day. They had 9 vendors, kind of some of the ones from the Holiday Bazaar. So they're trying that out kind of for a spring event. And kind of before Mother's Day, the holiday season, so they had 9 vendors, very well attended, you know, during the middle of the day. So I know it's hard for a lot of people, but, it was great for a first time event. And then other than that, we're just in full summer planning. We are going to be on site at the Summer Street Market, which started this Wednesday, yesterday. Yeah, like the first one. So Parks and Rec has signed up for 3 of them, so we'll start promoting, you know, summer events, programming, and then gearing up in August, like towards fall. So, yeah.
I think also on that would be the teddy bear parade
Oh,
that,
Alyssa,
yeah.
parade. It was soggy. It was so soggy. But they modified. They used the transit, put all the teddy bears in there with the
Yeah.
ambassadors. So yeah, that was this last weekend too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was,
there was a lot. And then
so
Arbor Day
soggy.
too, but I'll talk about that with the
Yeah.
next one.
Yeah. I think that's been about it.
She makes it seem like it's so not so much. It is so much that they do. I mean, this group works so hard, and quite proud and impressed with it, and that they're letting me come along with them.
Is there going to be a Juneteenth celebration? Oh, there is. So that.
So that's being run through
finalized,
it's being finalized.
Mhm.
The library is putting that on, and information should be coming out shortly about that.
Great.
There's a couple different things that they're working on in different groups that they're working with right
But I
now.
don't believe it's going to be on the 19th.
Right,
Right.
correct.
So, but I'm not sure. It's on a weekend, I
Mhm.
believe. But yeah, I thought it was like 17th?
I think so. I haven't heard the
Sounds about right.
finalizing
Yeah.
yet.
Mhm. Okay, cool. Yeah, once we get that, we'll send that to you.
And then can I do a little bit more bragging on them if you're done?
Yeah, behind the scenes, we're just like planning all this fun stuff, but.
So as the rec center's coming, we haven't done a lot of changes. We're really gonna be reviewing what programming we're offering. And I think this is first off, the cost is really reasonable. But the Fun in the Sun camp that we offer,
Yeah.
that's ran by staff, sold out, like within a few days of it even going on. It's our most successful program as far as what we can offer. And Laura, who is running that program now, she's grown up through it. She's ran it. She's also worked for THPRD, so she's really skilled in understanding how to organize it. The staff interviews all of the youth who come to be the camp counselors, and they've gone through several meetings and group interviews to get through that. So it's just really great to give an opportunity for those to get that experience and to have, they write a resume, right?
Mhm.
They apply, they come for a group interview, and I think it's really a skill that is more than just providing a camp. It's pretty cool. So we'll be working on marketing our other camps and stuff, and we'll be looking at what is being successful and what's not, and what we should be offering. And I said to the adult community center people, the members that were there, I said, whatever happens with this bond, I think I've told you, we're going to learn so much through this, whether it goes or doesn't go, of really getting to meet people and hear things that people are wanting. So even without a center, we can start to pivot what we're offering if there's a need. And so it's been fun. The crew's been really kind to me of asking a lot of questions and kind of pushing the envelope on some things, but yeah, they're rocking it. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Give us a chance to pull up. We're just running around like, oh, didn't think about that. Yeah. Thank you for stopping that moment. Be like,
There
oh.
usually isn't a moment to pause.
No.
There just is not.
Good.
So, but even things like with the fair, just like what Roger brought up, those are questions we're looking at. How do we evaluate that? How do we bring community members in? How do you open too much? How do you give, not to give preference? So we're really looking at those strategies. And so that feedback was really great. I would like to give a shout out to the parks crew who's out there. I don't know if you've seen how the parks are looking. There's bark mulch out, areas are getting cleaned up. Spray pads we have more spray pads than any other city around. Oh, it's scary. They're beautiful and well loved, but they are really high maintenance. So those are all getting flushed out right now to get prepped because we'd want to be open for Memorial Day weekend. We're a little short on our staff right now, so we're a bit behind, but John is working with the crew to get that moving as quickly as possible. So just hope you've seen those changes. That has not been from me. That's been them just really stepping up. With this Go Bond, our staff built a lot of those things that were added to parks. So when you're doing that, you can't maintain, right? And so now I've been really grateful to have this pause I'm reviewing capital projects, the bond projects, but to take a moment to really kind of get back to some of that maintenance, set up those deferred plans for like what playground needs to be replaced next, what irrigation systems need to be fixed, spray pads are getting all looked at. We don't have that plan in place currently. And so taking this next year to kind of figure out where are we going? And then keep thinking if Oppenlander comes in the rec center, I need to have these things in place so we know where our money's going and if I need to ask what the ask is or what are we not doing if we don't have any more money. So I'm really trying to get that framework so I can pass that to everybody, say, here's where we are, here's the projects coming up, this is what we need to be doing, and this is how we're maintaining. But it's taking a lot longer than I thought, but we're making headway with this. Well, okay, so I wanted to shout out to the parks crews. They're doing an awesome job too. How are we doing on time? Are we doing okay? Okay.
We're doing okay.
Okay, Tree City will go pretty quick, but I wanted to at least, that was the PowerPoint. It's short. It's only, I think, 5 slides or 4.
Can I make a random appreciation while you're opening? again?
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I walked because I had a meeting before this, and so I have a few minutes. So I walked down to Tanner Creek Park and I had to use the restroom, not to be too personal, but it was beautiful. The restroom was so clean. There's soap. I mean, I was, you never know when you're going to the park bathroom. So
Don't. No, I think that's when I'm kind of even looking from everywhere. This group has been working so hard. They've been running and haven't had time to plan. And so it's been really told them they're going to get those compliments. Yeah. They really are. They're actually, those restrooms and the skate park are getting, it's called soda blasted.
Oh,
They're gonna be cleaned, deep cleaned, because the skate park has this, it's probably from the wheels, that's like all gummed up. It hasn't been cleaned in a long time, so Jen has that occurring. Shortly that those will be getting extra spruce, but every restroom facility has been pressure washed. Playgrounds have all been pressure washed. So we're getting ready for the season, so. Yeah,
Yay.
so thank you for that feedback, and I will share that with them when I see
Great.
them. I do meet with them every Wednesday. I see Jen all the time, but I go down and talk with the park staff and do with the rec staff too, to give them updates of what's going on with the city too. Let me get the slideshow. So something that was, for me, it was very ingrained into what I've always done. And then when I got here, I know that we're a tree city, but we haven't, again, because of lack of staff. And you're supposed to have a dedicated committee to be a part of what Tree City is, as well as Bee City. And the one thing about these two programs, though, is that they really have to be staff driven based on staff time, right? It's events and activities, opportunities for education that we put together, but we want to present it to you and know that we can grow it. But if we handed it all to you and you came up with 10,000 ideas, we wouldn't be able to do it. So I wanted to kind of give you a little background on Tree City. You guys probably have all, I don't know if you've ever had a presentation on Tree City before. Okay, good. I won't go into too depth.
It's been a while.
Yeah, but to me, there's things that we do that people don't even know. So we're starting off with, I just wanted to give you kind of some background on it. Which one? What are you?
oh, I don't know.
You just go to the next one. Oh, here I got it. I got it. Look at me.
What do I click? Enter.
So I wanted to see, everybody knows that we're celebrating 31 years. That is pretty amazing to be, we're beating Lake Oswego. Kind of cool to say. But Tree City is put on by the Arbor Day Foundation, and it started in 1876. And it is something that there is great pride in it. If you go to the website, you can click on all the states and you can click into Oregon, and it shows you all the cities that have Tree City. It says there's 3,600 different communities across the country that are working on and supporting the urban forest. Pretty cool program. I don't know if you all know, but I am an arborist as well as Mike Perkins. Ron Jones just retired 2 weeks ago now. And so we're kind of taking this program from what he was able to do and keep it moving forward, and kind of we'll be taking this next year and revamping it, right? Adding some things and having some opportunities, really wanting to increase our environmental education.
Mike Perkins stepping back into that role.
So he is temporarily helping me to kind of work through it right now. Mike has really found his home being the arborist for the Parks Department. And he is really crafty and doing a great job there. So he's helping me kind of hold the helm. And what we're doing for the moment is we're looking at, that used to be a part-time position and it rolled into a full-time position with the transition from Mike to Ron. And what I'm currently doing is, sending out a scope of work to hire a part-time contracted arborist to help review our process for intake of our tree applications, looking at the application to make sure it meets our tree code. We'll get into the tree code at another time. But making our applications electronic and seeing what that workload is. And within that scope of work, there's certain things that there's a tree manual that has to be updated. There's supposed to be a street tree plan in place that is not there. And so kind of wanting to really see what that job needs to be. When Mike Perkins was working, it was only half of his job. And so looking at what does that mean contractual service wise, I think it's a really good fit. A lot of agencies are doing that, where you would accumulate, tree permits for the week. They would come and review it. There's also support that position does for building, for engineering, and planning. And so it's not just Parks Department and street trees. And so working with those departments to see what do we really need? How much development are we having? At a time, there was a ton of development. Now we're really slow, so this review of those permits is much smaller. Reviewing the tree protection that's required, going out and checking it. Are the street trees, what street trees should we be planting? So there is definitely a good possibility to have this person come in, because I could sit there and do this because I don't have time. So I'm really excited about it between Mike and I, and with a contracted arborist, we'll be able to streamline it, and then we can look at what that program needs to be. part that does do, if it's contractual service, we get to keep that FTE and help us within the department, maybe in a different function. But in LO, when they have all of the all of these activities that we're doing goes to that arborist and help even with all of the celebration throughout the year, celebrating trees. So kind of what we're looking at doing and then seeing how that works. And if that model works for us, great. Or if we go back out and hire somebody direct staff, what is their other part of their job that they'd be doing? So a lot going on right now. I'm really thankful to Mike Perkins right now. I owe him big. I owe him big. So a key with Tree City is there's 4 standards. And what I really wanted to bring back up to you is having you be our, our Tree City committee. So that what we would be doing is once a year before Arbor Month came, it'd be like in February or March, we put that on the schedule and would come in and show you what we did last year and what we're projecting to do the next year. And it's really fun when you get to see the stats. So we have to establish a tree care ordinance, which we already have. It has already been directed by council for planning department to start looking at that code. Sustainability Advisory Committee is going to be looking at that code as well, and I'll be bringing that to you too. So we're really wanting to, there's a lot to be adjusted to make it clearer and then also to bring it up to current time. The other part of this is that you need to spend at least $2 per capita of our budget. And this number is a little bit inflated in the fact that we have that additional money from the ARPA funds that are going to replace the street trees. So next year it may not be nearly as much, but the other part of that is it could be because the other departments are not reporting into this currently. It was just what Ron knew from what we were tracking in the Parks Department. So we should be going, how many street trees were planted through development, how many were planted. We'll be able to get that information more. Just didn't have time or even know. So that number, don't get fixated on it. It's one to be super proud of, but it may fluctuate next year because the numbers may be a little bit different. We won't be having the 100,000 that we're spending on the street trees, but we might have a gain of other work that's occurring. And then the proclamation to council that occurs and our Arbor Day events, which is the standard, 4th standard. Here's the real fun stuff. So trees by the numbers in 2023, I took this from Ron. I haven't been able to vet it, but we have to report to Tree City USA every year at the end of the year of what we've done. And so this is the numbers of able to literally 2 hours before this meeting to get into Ron's records to be able to go to Tree City and get this information. And so the tree planting and initial care that primarily, and I will say tracking these numbers, it isn't necessarily easy. And so I know there's quite a few things missing in here. Because I know that 98,000, that was the free street tree program. That doesn't include any of the other trees that we planted in the parks or any of the other maintenance, but it does take a lot of time to, once you know what you're looking for, you start saving invoices and filing them. So when you go do that report, you just pull it out and you've got all the information. So it'll keep improving over time. The tree maintenance would have been potentially either we hired a contractor to water plants, we hired somebody to come and do some pruning of a specific tree, if we had a heritage tree that needed to be managed. But you know what we're doing just with hours is way more than that with our staff. Tree removal, our staff does a lot of tree removals when they can, but if they need to contract it out, that dollar amount would be where we had to pay to have trees removed. We pretty much only remove hazard trees for the city, right? And then that's the management cost. So it would be, you would have a little bit of my time, a little bit of Mike's time. If there was other departments, you would look in there, but that primarily is going to be what Ron was to have a full-time arborist on staff. Now the volunteer hours, that is really a great number to have. Over 6,000, that was last year. I mean, and one thing you guys will get a presentation at some point in time from Tara. Nobody realizes how many volunteers we have and how many volunteer events. And then also the support that comes from it. We have over $17,000 budgeted to support our volunteers, but all the coordination of those red dump trucks and the going and buying a plant, it is so cool and we need to tout it. So that's coming up in future meetings. Number of trees planted, that's going to be really high because of that street tree planting. In future years, it may not be as much. But if we ever get to start doing real restoration, all those seedlings that go into restoration, those do get included, even though they're a different caliber, you know, from
Yep.
big size to little,
Yep.
those get counted. And then the number of trees pruned, I don't know where he got that number. I don't know how but they may have done a really large scale project after correcting street trees that had failed from the ice storm. I don't know what that number came from. But usually you have a lower number on that too, and it's hard to capture, right?
I bet it was after the ice.
I think, well, this
Yeah.
was last year, right? So that's what I'm guessing, that we might have done a street tree, large pruning. This is our volunteers from Earth Day, one of the pictures. So what Ron did is he had entered a work plan for 2023, and usually when you do a work plan, you put it for the next year. But right now, it's pretty similar, and there's more things on here that we're doing. But the first thing that we're required to do is celebrate Arbor Week, and we're hoping to add some more features to that, where there's more some maybe community engagement, having somebody come out and show how to do proper tree pruning, maybe do a tree walk. Those are things that don't take a lot of extra staff time. We call out our friends and the arborist community to help us out with that. And some of the tree pollinator week ties into the Arbor Month as well, when you start talking about pollinating trees. We are right now currently planting the trees from the 2023. So there has been, right now, we've got 207 street trees planted. And that is at 131 homes. And that was all paid for with the ARPA funding. We still have some more trees to go, and that doesn't include the trees that have gone into the parks as well. Ron had written down just the new street tree plantings with subdivisions in the future years, like to be able to tell you how many trees those are, and then how many times we're reviewing actually the street tree plans going in. Our staff is. The support volunteer work parties and ongoing tree parks maintenance. And so we're kind of at our baby step of starting this. The thing is, the part that's great is we don't have to change anything that we're doing. We're meeting the criteria. There's been several years we've had I want to say it's the overachiever award. I can't think of what it is. There's a award that you can get for just increasing what your tree protection is and then promoting your urban canopy. So anyway, there is your short presentation on Tree City. And I'll do something similar with Bee City, but I think one thing we're going to look at, because we're really wanting to push the environmental education, not only for youth, but for adults, that we'll be looking at what we can do. And it doesn't have to be just during the week. It could be all year long. So
I love your presentation, and I would love in the meeting minute to put that on the website.
Okay.
I love the visuals, the layout, the data. Thank you. Thank you so much.
well, in future years, I would love to have the proclamation, just have a 5-minute presentation with this so that council can see too, because it is a commitment, but we're meeting it, and but we can do more too. And I think we need to be proud of it.
Arbor Pollinator Week comes up in June 17th.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it would be great to get a little Westland Tidings article around what happens in Pollinator Week and provide some of this data. The more people can see what's actually happening, I think the better. And if you can put some of that data in the minutes, we need to help you guys shine because you're diamonds. I was snarky and said, so did Ron prepare that presentation for you? And I know that a lot of this is falling on your shoulders, and I'm glad that you were trying to get the right mix to have that be more of a standard.
It's exciting. Well, it's work that I truly enjoy too, but I think it's just, the department doesn't do a great job about, when I say bragging and I think of staff morale, it's what we do.
Yeah.
So you don't think about shouting it out because it's just what we do. And so for me, I want to protect all of them to want to be here and to be proud of the work versus just hearing the negative part. And this is ways of doing it. And then it only amplifies with the community. So.
What else? I'm sorry, I seem to be talking. We've had park board meetings from time to time where it's trying to get information. It's like, so what's the actual usage? What was actually spent? What is actually happening? And that's no criticism to anybody in the past, but having you come prepared and sharing this information, it is so refreshing, and it brings us along as opposed to, trying to get it done. That being proactive like that. And it's nice and succinct, and it gives, it hits the ethos, pathos, the logos, you have the facts, you have the people, the plants. I mean, that type of thing should be on our website. You know, the more of that stuff, the better.
Yeah.
Because it gives people a picture of what's really happening and people don't see it.
They don't. Well, and I want people to be proud of the work that we're doing, you know?
Yeah.
And it's Tara's seen me sometimes forgetting which meeting I'm going to next, and I'm literally running to my car. To give honor to Ken and Ken, you can't do it all, and it's burnout. I mean, in a way, so finding those moments, this to me fills it, so when it's really hard and I can't feel like I'm not getting anywhere, I have to find those nuggets to where we are making a difference in our community, and I want to honor that so well. But there's times where you're like, I can't. The bond stuff, when I talk about Willamette, think about that. That is a massive project. I know we can do it, but it's like, okay, how do we do it right? And how do we use the money to the best ability to get the best impact with what we have? And I don't want to just start that without having all those questions answered, because it's not about what I want. It's how do we make this happen? And so I'm working from the ground of how we're handling dog signs. I know he came in somewhere today. Sorry. We're at our office today. Giving my shows. I hope everybody can give me that kind of, like, I've had to give this a year of like trying to really absorbing what we're doing with all these big projects, the rec center, open land, or whatever that's going to be. To come through. So I really appreciate your patience of saying, like, if I don't know something, I will tell you, or if I haven't had a chance to go, Vicky, I haven't had a chance to get to that, but I want to, you know, well, no, because I committed to it. We went through the agenda. So I've really been appreciative of you guys being so kind to me. I really do mean it.
You're awesome. I mean, yeah, that's great. Good
So
job.
we'll keep going. But yeah, the other things that we missed on the last few agendas, we'll start plugging them in. We haven't had these presentations. We'll have some of these kind of things. I don't mean to say in stock, but we'll be able to update them, and I'll be able to have other staff help us with it too. So
And bring
Good.
other staff in.
Yeah.
every once
but
in a while.
that's our goal,
Yeah.
right?
We can meet the behind the scenes.
I think that would be great. That's
Yeah.
great.
We got a list a
I
lot of
like
fun,
that.
so we'll work on, getting the other ones in here.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, are there other items of interest from board members first that haven't hit the agenda tonight?
More kudos, but they swung the bridge they hit high water, and it looked like they were able to swing it over, and even now, a day and a half later, 2 days later, it's hanging on the arm, so they would have had to get a crane, because that's the highest water we'll have until January.
Probably, yeah. For a long time.
You know what ended up happening? We had a contractor ready to go, and
Yeah.
staff was like, "We got it," and I'm like, "You got it?"
Couldn't have been by much, couldn't have been by much.
Yeah, but
It
it
was
did.
enough, it was
I mean, I
great.
think that's another thing, like, all the jam logs, they start with themselves because they know we don't have a lot of budget, but we had it set for a contractor to come and do it, who does that professionally, but they were like, we think that's how this crew is. I can do it. Like,
Yeah, they nailed it.
It was
so,
really high
thank you
water.
for that. I will
Will
definitely
you,
pass.
will you make sure that you share that?
I will absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. That's why I love those Wednesday morning. I share it with all of them. I will.
So
thank you.
Megan, I know that you're gonna meet with the volunteers at Marietta
Yes,
next Wednesday.
yes. Thank you for being there. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, so I had a chance at the Sol event, because most of the guys that are there on Mondays and Wednesdays also are at the Sol event Saturday. And I gathered a bunch of people up because we meet early to get things set up,
Yeah.
and they all wanted to know about you.
Are you afraid of me?
No, no,
They probably might.
No, no,
They're gonna
but-
love you so much.
but they are, no, they definitely are, okay? But it's interesting because for a long time, what we've done with the two Kens is when we first started doing this many years ago, they basically said, hey, if you want to fix these things, you have this plan, fix things,
Yeah,
just don't tell us about
yeah.
it. Because, so pretty much they could
Well,
say,
can I say
if
this?
somebody, if
Can I
somebody
say
got
this
it,
for you guys? So think about it, and this is what happens though. And it's not like, I'm kind of envious in one way because look at how much they got done, right? But the time has changed and we don't even own the land. So I just wanted to make sure, so I really appreciated what they've done there.
but one of the things I told them was that what you're gonna want is you're gonna want, here's what we think you guys can do. And if you want to do it, if you want to cut a tree down, you don't just go cut a tree down because you got a chainsaw in the back of your truck. You have to talk to somebody that says it's okay to cut that tree down. And so we're gonna have some rules.
Yeah.
And most of the guys are like, that would be kind of nice, okay? It wasn't like, oh shit, we're gonna have some rules.
Yeah,
It was more like, that's not a bad thing. you know?
yeah,
And so that we don't have, we don't have somebody cutting down a tree that maybe we don't want to cut down. I mean, my bias has always been, even if somebody declares a tree as it being, invasive, an
yeah.
invasive tree. If it was green and it had leaves, I liked it, okay? We've lost so many trees with ice storms over the last number of years that if it's growing and it's healthy, if somebody wants to claim that's invasive, I'll go, that's okay. It's different if there's ivy growing up. We cut that off all the time.
Yeah.
But, we take out those things. But I mean, the bottom line is that I think some rules for our group will be that will actually be
I'm really
appreciated.
glad to hear that, because
And we-
coming from a natural resource background and helping develop a natural areas management plan at LO, those are my long-term goals here, to be able to have that. But I want to make sure, I want them to feel valued, that we need everybody. There might be the thing is, I'm looking out for protection, not only for the city, but for those volunteers who are doing that work. And then building that trust with the community that we have a plan. So those things on Facebook don't show up, or people don't just come up. Like, one person has a permission to go and start cutting down trees, but they're not logoed. And then what happens when somebody else just decides to come in and get firewood? And I've heard so many stories of that happening. I've even seen it myself. And so just trying to make sure that we're all on the same page, working towards the same goal. So I hope they know, for me, yes, there's things that when you said that to me, I was like, oh my goodness, but we also have a tree code. Every tree needs to be permitted, right? And the crew, our staff is just learning that we have to permit it. So, and it has.
Yeah, we know, we've
by
had them do,
reference, right?
we've had them do a lot of things.
So, but I mean, the thing is, the intent was great. To me, that's the important part. And I'm working with state parks now too. They're sitting over a baseline restoration plan that they've had. So we have to document, so that when somebody does come to me, what are you doing? I can say, no, we have an understanding. We have an agreement that's a strong word, but an agreement. I used to have agreements with all the friends groups to give them validity, also for getting grant funding for themselves. But also we had an understanding of what was needed from the city for funding and support, what the objectives were of what they were doing. So then there wouldn't have to be, constant monitoring, but we were all working towards the same goal. And I think we all are. We haven't been able to be a good partner there just because of lack of time. So how do we keep you all?
Well, one of the things that the city has done very, very well is give us anything we need.
Mhm.
I mean, if we need equipment, if
Yeah.
we need that sort of stuff, which is pretty much, most of us are retired people, and
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I might not be at the meeting personally because I've got my grandson,
Yes, but I'm glad that you've talked
but
to
I've
them.
talked to everybody.
Okay.
It's because they were all like, oh man, there's a new person coming.
We need to, let's have a meeting.
And so, but they were, they were a little worried about that.
Well,
I thought it was
I'm
interesting.
worried too,
And I
right?
said
I don't want
but
them
they're
to-
really nice guys. I mean,
Yeah.
most of the people that you're gonna meet, if you haven't met them already, have been working in the park for a long time. I mean, some almost 20 years.
Amazing.
So we're a lot older than we used to be, but some almost 20. I'll try to get there, but I may have a 3.5-year-old with me,
Okay.
which is okay.
You're welcome, but I just even starting that precursor conversation is really important to me, because I don't want to take away the toys or.
So they're gonna know why you're there
Yeah,
and that what you're
I
interested
really
in.
appreciate it.
And they also know your basic, this is what she's done. Here's what I mean, she was just over in Lake Oswego. Yeah, pretty good stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that I think you'll be welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Are there any other items of interest from the board? I have a few, but none of them are important enough to share at this point. Is there any? Are there any feedback or questions that have come from city council for us?
Not at the moment.
Okay.
Oh, I do have one more if I could.
Sure.
On Monday, Sustainability Advisory Board is going to be putting a resolution to council about transitioning to electric equipment as well as facility structures. I was very grateful to be able to work with one of their members to talk through some of the strategies. I did a lot of this work in LO about not drawing the line in the sand of saying it has to be now because technology isn't there and our funding isn't there, but making the commitment, at least from our department, well, I guess I have the facilities and the park side, to be evaluating those things as we come through. So for example, the HVAC system on this building is supposed to be replaced. more than likely for our cost, it may have to go back to be what it is, which is natural gas, but we're gonna be evaluating a hybrid model and electric and presenting that. And so when we're looking at all of those things, we have to weigh that and in told, it's not necessarily for us to decide on those big items. What is the right thing for it to be? The new operations building is doing the same thing. For emergency purposes, you can't be all electric. You have to have a balance of certain things, natural gas, as well as having your generator that is gonna be, it's gonna be fuel. So making sure that we can explain those as we go through. So I was really grateful that with what they're presenting does give us that latitude to be able to show that we're gonna do our best, but we also have to be practical.
Good.
And make sure that we're not just jumping on board when we're not ready or the tech isn't ready. So, I want to be able to continue to work with them on that. They are all asking for feedback. Ryan and I will be talking with them about some of the sustainability features that have already been brought in to the rec center. So they'll become more involved with that as well. But their next meeting is when our meeting is. So that they've connected with us, and we're going to give them that information. So
Awesome.
Okay.
So, just a quick, review of action items. The farmer's market starts, Wednesday. Mary, Diana, and Vicky will be there. Staff set up at 3:15. Market starts at 4. Materials for market, staff is preparing those.
Yep.
The agenda for June, I have ready, and I'm gonna send it. to
Okay.
reps, today. Follow up on the leash sign at Willamette Park. And
you
that's
can say that's assigned to staff, and it'll be.
Yeah.
Yep.
Megan's.
Yep. Got it.
You're going to forward the new, community rec center materials that
Yeah.
are being created. And you're going to follow up on the staff side of the stage name, and we have it on the agenda for our next meeting. Karen Watch, there's a schedule, flyer that's on the website that we can go to. There's the meeting with the Mary. Thank you. Volunteers, on Wednesday, the 15th, and Sustainability Advisory Board on Electric Equipment. And that's to city council.
They're taking the resolution to council. Yeah.
Okay, and that's, Monday, the 13th. And you believe that the Parks and Rec needs are represented? through their
Yeah.
Engagement in
I'm
that?
gonna try to be at that meeting, see if there's any questions, but I did feel that it would give us some room to transition.
Mhm.
Yeah.
On our next, agenda, we have a big chunk of time for the community center because it's June.
Yep.
We have to have our ducks in a row at that point. And, the Willamette Park stage name, and then our regular, agenda items, and that's, July 11th. Just a little homework assignment, that I added, and I have the link right in the minutes, or right in the agenda. Let's all go to the city website and read through everything that's on the community, and recreation center.
Give me one page.
Until next week. But let's make sure that we're all as well informed as possible going into our June meeting. Because at that point, we're gonna have to, say, okay, let's, what we're doing. And if, I know there's steering committee, but if there's something that we need to do before,
Absolutely.
the June meeting, let's make sure that we're making that.
We'll be sending the information out. You'll be getting more emails. I mean, it'll probably kind of come fast and furious, but when we get things to share, I'm trying to figure out right now, when you go onto the website, about how much to have on there. So like some of our steering committee information, trying to make sure when people look at it, they understand what they're looking at. When we're doing a slide deck, if I just put it on there, they don't necessarily have the context. So trying to figure out what's appropriate. So we're working on that right now too.
Is that steering committee meeting next week?
It is on the
16th.
16th. Yeah.
And the June meeting for Prav is the 13th?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna be.
Then we have open
I'll
house,
make sure.
May
that-
23rd.
23rd is the open house.
Yep.
So do you want all of us, if possible, to be at all those?
Yeah, the
So
steering,
15th, the 16th? the 23rd,
yeah, I would say yes. The steering
and all of
committee,
city council?
yeah, I would say, I would try to see the steering committee. I don't know why I wouldn't. I mean, I've opened it to more people too. If you're interested in coming, by all means. I don't feel like,
Is the open house at the adult community? center?
Yeah, it's at the
Okay.
adult, sorry, I may have said the wrong thing. It's at the
No,
adult
you didn't.
community center.
The 23rd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this year, I mean, especially even if you're there, even if it was to have them have the conversation and we have, to observe, I think maybe how I would probably do it respectfully is that there's committee members. If you want to come and observe it, I've said it to staff too, it's interesting to see. Yeah,
Okay.
and then, but the 23rd is a really big one. So just, I think, not necessarily hearing from us, the consultants hearing from you. And I think the main thing you'll hear from us is, Chris did a really great, was it Chris that did, no, James did a really great job.
Yeah.
We wanted people to put sticky notes and people weren't. So James was walking around with sticky notes and somebody would say something, he'd write it down and go put it on the board. And that was huge because there were so many up there that some people didn't want to engage. And we're also going to have a kids hands-on activity and a voting board for them too. So they'll get to do a dot exercise. So.
Cool, excellent.
Are we good?
Okay.
Big area, right?
Yeah, do you know where the stand will be?
Where we'll meet on the 15th.
We don't know.
Oh, we'll let you know.
How do you let us know?
It's not a really big area.
Email you.
Yeah.
Not a really big area.
No.
Well, yeah, what street, yeah, we don't know, yeah, what, they've all been designated, like,
Okay,
spots. So, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get you that.
And
Prior.
there are more opportunities if we want to do more, but Kathy said she didn't get a lot of responses, so I just grabbed that date. I think I may have even grabbed the 15th, but I never got confirmation of that. I don't know that I can always say no. But there is more opportunity for down the road, I think, if we get tired, so. And even as when our department's there, somebody can be there too. So.
I apologize for standing up. It's not to rush anybody. I just can't sit down anymore.
We've
Such
done
a big fit in
the
that
summary, so we're officially closing the meeting. Thank you so much.
Thank you.